Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Coming to you direct from New York City, this is Dennis. Today on Light Talk, we discuss family changes, training for a career in broadcast lighting, the art of problem solving, and balancing artistic aspirations with real-world budgets. All on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. Woo! Yeah, welcome everyone to episode 425. Ellen's at Showlight in Dijon, France, so she's not here with us. But we are very excited today to introduce an old friend of ours as new co-host and Lumen brother, Dennis Size.
Yay!
How you doing, Dennis?
I'm doing well. Thank you for this opportunity. I can't say how flattered I was to be invited. And I must promise, there's two promises that I will uphold as to the best of my ability. I have an incredible amount of conflicts. So in order to make our scheduling every week, I will try to adjust my conflicts as much as possible. My second promise is certainly not to piss off Snoot. Because
there you go.
That's a smart man.
And you know
starting
what?
Off on the right foot.
I should probably switch those. Adjusting conflicts is certainly secondary to making sure that Snoot is happy at all times.
Absolutely. Because you know what happens when you piss off Snoot.
I've been down that
road. You don't want to f*** with her. That's for damn sure. Okay. Well, first of all, Dennis, it's great to have you here. You know, you're an old friend of the show and of us personally. You're probably our best listener because you listen to just about every show we've done. We've had you on the show like 2 or 3 times. It's fantastic.
You know what? Someone asked me, my daughter asked me, and I said, I've been on the show 6 times. And she said, you're kidding. I said, no, I figured it out. I was on the show as a real guest, as it were, 3 times. I can't remember when. It was the Time of Your Life show, and then I did a Super Bowl show, and then I did a debate show. But I was on a couple of other, Ellen had me on where we did a retrospect memorial for Bill Klages. And then I was a guest with about 5 other designers for, I think it was the 7th anniversary.
Yeah, last year's anniversary, yeah.
And then a couple of years ago, you did a trial show where you invited some teachers and a student or 2 to come on to ask questions. Mm-hmm. And I was on that show, but that never seemed to go anywhere. I thought you were going to do that more often with people.
Well,
but,
we could do it. I don't know why we didn't do it again. Steve, do you remember?
Well, I'm confused because you said there were 2 things. I think there's 3 things. You're not going to be able to listen to the episodes in your car now and then yell at the radio because you will be yelling at yourself.
You know what? But it's a conversation with somebody I like.
Someone that never bores you, right?
That's
you
right.
Never bore yourself. So there you go. That's good to know. Well, first of all, Dennis, we were kind of desperate to tell you the truth, and so your name came up.
That's what I figured.
To be quite honest, but no, I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better person to join us. So it's good to have you here. And by the way, you know, you mentioned your conflicts. Yes, you're the busiest working man in showbiz, no doubt about it. Definitely lighting designer. Where are you right now? Because I'm looking at backstage somewhere.
Oh, my goodness. The background just went off. I'm on the studio. It's called Studio B in the Robert A. Iger building, which is a brand new Disney studio facility in Soho in Manhattan.
Iger.
Yeah. And Disney has built this building over the last 6 years, and I started designing shows in here about 7 or 8 months ago. They're gradually migrating all of their properties that are in the tri-state area to this facility.
Very
and
interesting.
The studio that I'm in launched about 9-10 months ago for The View, and it also is shared with Tamron Hall. So that big-ass video screen behind me was saying Tamron Hall a couple of minutes ago. But now everything is getting shut down, so I wouldn't be surprised if the work lights get turned off in the middle of our broadcast. I'm loading in the studio next door, so my crew's on a lunch break, so I came into this studio to be able to converse with my brethren.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's wonderful.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day to do
No
this.
problem.
Exactly.
It's fun. I think you guys, you know how I feel, and any way that I could be a part of the fun, You grab the fun where you can when you get to our age.
It's fleeting, let's just say. So let's get started with industry news. We've got some industry news today. And the first bit is the National Design Portfolio Review. Steve, you've got a few students going there, right? Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, this has been around for a while. It's evolving and growing. NYU joined the family this year, I believe. So it's going to be at the NYU campus. There are, I believe, there's a website you can go to. It's on the Facebook page. I believe there's 16 universities from around the country involved in this. And jointly, we are showing 64 students in all areas of design. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's great. It's sort of a branch off from Ming's Clam Bake from many years ago that we all went to. It was great.
That's where I first met you, Steve. You used to come to this like a decade ago, didn't you?
I used to produce.
Okay, that's where I first met you.
Yes, Design Showcase East, and you were there and you started scouting every lighting design student in the room.
I think I probably hired somebody that day. I know I hired somebody 2 years ago at the one in New York.
You hired Josh Cutler, I think, was the first person from SMU you hired.
You are correct. Wow. But it's a very good show. And for all the designers and teachers and university professors listening, you should really offer this opportunity to the students, because bozos like me that actually work professionally and hire people really troll these shows to meet the designers and to see what the talent is that's out there, and to hire to work as assistants and draftspeople and build them up bring them up the ladder. So it's a great opportunity.
And on the West Coast, we have a very similar event put on by UCLA, and that's going to be a week from today, believe it or not. Design Showcase West, May 31st at UCLA. I've been doing it for many years. Again, they really know how to put on a party. Let me tell you, they have some industry giants there, mostly from the, film and television, and some theater people. Absolutely. There's some theater people as well. But they always have a special, it's huge luncheon. It's really nice. And it's great to talk to the students. So that's next weekend. I will be there with Snoot. I think Snoot's looking for some cheap paralegals to come out of the entertainment world. So let's get started. Dennis, you have the first question of the day.
Question. I am a student at a theater school studying theatrical lighting design. However, I think I want to learn more about broadcast lighting. What classes should I take to learn this technology? It's interesting, post-pandemic, when video knowledge and knowledge of cameras and lighting for cameras became a real important issue in designers' worlds, I was surprised that more universities didn't hop on the bandwagon and do either inter or co-curricular courses with AV departments or television departments, communications departments, and theater programs, because that's really where you learn that sort of thing. When I was in college, when I made the switch into theater, there was no theater department at the university I was at. So I went into the communications department, and then I did a double major with English Lit. But it was in the communications department that I learned how to work in television and in the TV studio at the university. And that's really the best source that any student has. And I don't know if there's a university in the country that doesn't have some sort of either instructional television studio or a studio that's connected with a local affiliate. Again, when I was in college and decided I wanted to go into the industry, I took an internship at the PBS affiliate in Wilkes-Barre, Pittston, WVIA. And as a work-study student there, you do the nonsense work. But when they would do a show, they would say, okay, we're going to build a set. And I'd say, well, I was studying scenic design in school. What's the difference between that and scenic design in television? And a lot of it in any internship or any class or even a program where you can do individual studies, you learn on your own, but working with professionals in a nearby studio facility really helps a great deal. And then when I went for my graduate work at Penn State, I just carried that to the next level. And the instructional television studio at Penn State University was looking for content, and they started doing shows that were in the theater department and transferring them and shooting them to put on video in the studio. So it became a natural gravitation for me. And I think that's really the best way to learn, because you're learning on the job. In terms of classes, lighting design is lighting design. Once you grasp and wrap your head around the knowledge of what light is and how to work with it and what the point of view is, all you really need to be aware of is the camera and the video technology. And I was actually a still photographer when I was in high school and college. And so I had a really strong base in camera knowledge. And that's really what it's all about, is understanding how a camera works and what you're seeing through the camera lens, as opposed to sitting in row J, seat 101, looking at the proscenium arch. The camera is the proscenium, and you need to learn how to understand that. And the best way is to take courses in camera and video technology. Our friend Clifton Taylor and the studio school has a number of classes taught by some really great designers like Bob Barnhart, and that's another way of actually learning if the university that you're at doesn't have the structured class, if you know what I mean. But it's just like anything else. How much do students learn in the class with one of the teachers telling them how to do something? It's until they're in the theater that they're actually doing it, that they know how to do it, and working with their peers. Yeah. And that's really what it's all about.
Or studio,
or studio, yeah.
Right, working in a studio. And if you're at a school and they don't have a television production program and you really want to get involved in it, I suggest you find a school that does. Because some schools specialize in other things, and they may not have much of a television production. Most good schools would, though. It'd be hard for me to believe that you would leave that out, since that's what the most vital thing going on right now. You can also do some learning on your own. And a really great resource would be this wonderful book that Jeff Ravitz and Jim Moody wrote called Lighting for Televised Live Events. Is that correct?
Yep.
Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
It's terrific. And actually, we had Jeff and Jim on the show several years ago. That's episode 216, and we will leave a link for that in the Light Talk Facebook group page. That's a great episode because Jeff and Jim both talk about a lot of techniques they use for broadcast lighting. You'll learn a lot from that as well.
It seems like a lot of students learn these days on YouTube. It's
right.
Remarkable. And how many things that, the three of us have been practitioners for years and years, and then something new comes out. What's the first thing we do? Oh, how do we work that toy? We go on YouTube and look at some instructional video that ETC or High End or Chauvet or somebody put out so that we can learn. Right. It's not like the old days where you had to read an instruction manual or you had to spend hours researching in the library, or just trial and error and making dumb mistakes until you figured out how to do it.
Right.
I believe you could also, is community access TV still there? Is that a thing that's still funded?
I think so. Most cable companies in metropolitan areas have the cable access, free access channels.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to welcome you walking in. If you know nothing, they're going to welcome that. I think there's probably something to be gained with working outside the university with churches that have a video component, and they are doing some type of perhaps live stream. But I really think where I learned, I started out at Opryland, and long before it was Nashville Network, it was called Opryland Productions, and they had the largest studios west of Los Angeles. And they were doing the Johnny Cash show. They were doing stuff in the South for Midnight Special. They were doing things for Wide World of Sports. And I was just this kid who was pulling cable or had a little wagon with a 10K Fresnel on it, walking around with it. And I just started watching what the LD was doing. and I started learning a little bit about cameras. And someone told me early on I need to make friends with the engineer and have them teach me a little bit about what is necessary. And those are certainly the dark days of gigantic cameras and, megawatts of illumination. You can light something now with a cigarette lighter. But I think you guys are right. It is hands-on. It is experiencing. It is where we're going later in the show, problem solving.
And I'm going to give you one bit of advice for young lighting designers who are getting into television or film or anything, any type of that media type, is always look through the camera. Don't light it like you're lighting a theater.
Oh, yeah.
Piece. Always look through the camera. Jim Moody actually gave me that advice when I took a job being to light a new television, a local television newsroom in Mobile, Alabama, without any broadcast lighting experience. I just took the job and I said, help. And he said, okay. The most important thing is always look through the camera. So there you go.
Steve, at SMU, how many students in the design program, whether it's scenery, lighting, or costumes, are interested in going into television or broadcast?
It's even beyond that. They're also interested in animation. They're interested in media. They're interested in this whole new form of
video games.
Yeah, I mean, we have a video program
games,
here with 60 grad students in that. But everybody that you have met or worked with your company from SMU has taken 3 courses in television and film: a camera course, a basic studio course, and then a location course. And actually, you might remember Luther Frank. Luther took a class in which he was tasked with writing it, filming it, and editing it, like a 6-minute piece. So they're very interested in this. It's we're always trying to find a way to work within the many departments of the Meadow schools.
I think it's incumbent upon universities to try and provide something, but it's very difficult. Years ago, when I was still teaching, I taught a course at Carnegie Mellon on television lighting, and they used to have a practicum, and I'm going back now 25 years, where they mounted a production, and it was sometimes a play converted for TV as a teleplay or an original script that was mounted at WQED, the home of Mr. Rogers. And the teachers, such as myself or the faculty there, guided the students. So there would be a couple of grad students in directing, a couple of grad students in costume design, a couple of grad students in lighting and scenery. And they actually mounted the production that was acted in by actors from the program, and the script, if it was original, written by somebody from the program. And it was pretty spectacular. And a whole week of time was spent on location at QED. Set was built. It was almost like one of the main stage productions. And then that tape, that end product, was actually aired on PBS. And all of these students graduated from CMU and went to Hollywood to be part of the Steve Bochco gang with a tape of their work. And I know several of the students I had who were doing lighting design for these are working LDs in the broadcast industry to this day. So unfortunately, I believe CMU has phased that out because it's, costly, and budgets being what they are, and you gents would know more than I about the problems universities are having keeping their graduate schools running. But I think there's a certain responsibility of the universities to train the students, and conversely, on the part of the students, to seek out that training.
Richard from Mozambique asks, it seems that every show that I design at school, I am constantly frustrated when the faculty continues to cut the production budgets. Sometimes I feel helpless as there seems to be no way to present the production team's artistic demands with increasingly small budgets. How do working designers balance artistic aspirations with real-world budget, time, and equipment restraints? Well, this is a really good question, Richard. This happens everywhere. It's not like that when you're out there working after you graduate, that you're not going to have your budget cut from the initial ideas that you and the rest of the artistic team present. They say, oh, that's great, but you only have $50,000 to do it with. And you know that all those video screens that you have up there is going to cost you about $600,000. Okay, so what do? Do you throw the idea out? Okay, first of all, we all deal with this all the time. And very few times you say, well, can't be done. Because a lot of times the answer for the producer would be, well, then we'll find a production team that can do it. So we talk about it as a team, how we're going to approach this production. And we come up with new ideas that don't need as much technical support, that are much more collaborative, much more theatrical, much more artistic. I find that we're seeing less and less of that nowadays, and we can blame it on a number of things. We can go on and on about talking about how creative problem solving is suffering, with AI and ChatGPT and all that other stuff. But when it comes to budgets, again, it's not necessarily the money. It could be a time issue, staff issue, how many people are on staff to focus the show, all that stuff. And you should know this stuff before you go in. And it should be in your contract and at least have a letter of agreement that you will know how many people will be there to put your show up. One of my first questions is, okay, this is great, but I really need to see a production schedule before I sign this contract. So I know immediately what the shape of that time restraint is. So yeah, work together as a team and don't throw out the idea, but use that idea as a jump off point to a new idea. What do you guys think?
I would agree. And I think also in terms of budgets, it's happening everywhere. I used to work on very highly budgeted TV productions of high profile. The high profile hasn't gone away, but the high budgets have. And it's everywhere. And I think to be able to learn at the student level on how to deal with the budget cutbacks, to strip down the design concept, to still be able to sell what the artistic sensibility is on as little money as possible is important to learn early on, because it's not going to get any better. And these days we're faced with clients who they don't even give us a budget. They'll say, here's what we want. Give us a budget for what it's going to cost. So then we come back with what it's going to cost, and they say, are you out of your head? We don't have that kind of money.
You should have asked.
So then, but as I tell them, I said, I'm going to give you a budget based on what it should be. Once you get upset with that, then we'll start the hostage negotiation. But it's the way of the world. I mean, not just in the professional arena, but in the academics, all the way down to community theaters. Let's face it, nobody has any money for anything. Go to Five Guys and try and buy a burger for under $40. Jesus, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Five Guys. I've never eaten at Five Guys.
It's too expensive.
Used to be a favorite of mine. Now you need to go with your checkbook.
Cougarans.
Yes, that's exactly.
The 5 Cougarans, please. One for each guy. So there you go. All right. So you are listening to Light Talk. And today's episode of Light Talk is sponsored by...
Hey, it's Pet Sweat of Japan. Tired of unwanted suggestions from the assistant director? Have we got just the solution? Look no further than the fine folks at Pet Sweat of Japan, proud partners in the noble art of backstage avoidance. Introducing the ultimate distraction tactic for Tech Week, Have-a-Bisquit Sampler. You know the drill. You've almost got the cue just right, and the assistant director starts heading in your direction when the director steps out of the room. Worse still, he has a notepad and a copy of The Magic of Light in his hands. So how to prepare for a week-long cueing session of hearing, I have an idea I want to share. Next time, the assistant director drifts over to the tech table to drop some of his valuable insights. Don't argue. Don't flinch. Just smile politely and hand him a dense, chewy, bourbon, chocolate, and coffee biscuit from our Have-a-Bisquit selection. By the time he's halfway through that Fuzzy Brick of Bliss, the double hit of caffeine and cocoa will knock him into a momentary state of euphoric silence. Then he is off to sleep as the bourbon kicks in and says, "Remember me?" He'll be snoring before he can say motivated practical. But wait, there's more. Got an assistant stage manager convinced she is the spiritual heir to Hal Prince? Slide her a piece of our extra sticky Hello Panda taffy. One bite, and she will be too busy peeling molar-to-molar glue off her teeth to critique your fade timing. Still not enough? Deploy the nuclear option. Chocolate squid on a stick. Yes, it's a live squid, dipped in chocolate, glued to a stick with marzipan. And let me tell you, that is one angry squid. Once it's latched onto their face, lighting suggestions will be the last thing on their minds. But wait, there's still more. Don't forget the big bottle of cow piss to help wash it down. They cannot talk while trying to swallow a mouthful of warm strawberry cow piss. So say goodbye to an unsolicited TED Talk on lighting design and say hello to Pet Sweat of Japan. Always something good in the kitchen and on the tech table. Order now, and we'll throw in a bottle of squid repellent.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Is that a squid on your face?
I got that panda taffy. It's so damn good, but I couldn't open my mouth. Jeez. Anyway, and now back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those monkeys, ducks, and iguanas bouncing around to the sweet sounds of Taylor Swift means that once again it's time for Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about lighting design and the art of problem solving. So we had a listener write us an email, and he was inspired from an article I wrote many years ago for Church Production Magazine. And believe it or not, it was entitled Lighting Design and the Art of Problem Solving. And we'll post the link to that article. I said, boy, I wrote really poorly about 8 years ago. It hasn't gotten much better. I know that, Dennis, you wanted to talk a little bit about this because you were inspired by some problem solving.
Are you talking about the article that I recently read that I was inspired by?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Was that from you?
No. It was Chris Lose had written the article in
that was a different one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not sure which problem you were talking about. There's so many to solve.
There are so many.
I think the biggest problem, and what I was suggesting that students need to learn more how to do, is to pivot when the mistakes happen, and they need to jump on to continue the process. Because if there's some sort of disaster in your show, especially if you're doing a live show and you have a cueing error, you need to really think quickly and stay cool and unruffled, as the saying goes. As Chris was saying in his article, you need to be like a duck. And to recover very quickly, the duck always looks like it's just gliding across the surface of the water. Meanwhile, it's paddling ferociously underneath to stay above water and to move forward. And too often, and I've seen it over and over, and early on in my career, you make a mistake and all of a sudden you beat yourself up for that mistake. And if it's a live show and you're beating yourself up, you're going to make 3 more mistakes because the show is moving forward. And I think that's it's something that students need to learn and understand at the level that they're working at the universities, so that they always have some way to back up themselves when a problem happens. Essentially, expect the unexpected and be able to pivot and move forward, or it'll just get all bad. And I've seen this happen with directors where, they'll miss a shot, or a camera will crap out, or a wrong shot will be taken. And instead of just letting it move on and ignore the problem to keep the show going, they'll get all flustered. Then there's 5 more mistakes that happen.
It's like the Zen of Lighting Design. I had spoken about this many years ago on an episode that we did of this very show. One of the greatest lighting designers I have seen was a person, I won't mention his name because he's a very successful designer.
Thank you.
A lot of people didn't think, you're welcome. And a lot of people didn't think very much of his art. I did. I thought he was very artistic. But the reason why he's so successful is because he is the calmest person in the theater, and he can solve problems quickly, fastly, with an very even temperament. Because you're in the middle of it all at that production table, or in that control room, wherever you're lighting the show from, right? You have people on your left, people on your right. You've got monitors all over the place. You've got all this stuff, and you're supposed to be watching that stage 90% of the time. If not 100% of the time.
Yeah.
You have people yelling at you. You got people, questioning you. You have the assistant director giving you a lighting note, even with that damn squid on his face. You've got all that stuff going down, right? And you have to stay calm. And you have to say, oh my God, this transition is not working as we thought it was going to work. So what do? You're paddling, just like Dennis said, you're paddling like crazy, but you need to think quickly, and you need to try it and say, hey, I got an idea. What if, and it may take a blocking change. The director may say, okay, don't come in from in 2, come in from in 1. We're going to bring in something mid-stage, and we're going to focus on you and take the audience's attention away from something that's trucking on or flying in or whatever, right? So you have to come up with these ideas, because you know what's possible technically, visually with lighting, and also with stagecraft, obviously. And the director may not be as adept with that knowledge as you are. So staying calm and the Zen of Lighting Design is really, really super important. Even if you're like a mediocre artist, you're going to be working if you could solve problems like this. But you could be the greatest artist in the world, and if you freeze up, guess what? You're not going to be working. And that's the thing. I mean, I'd rather be on the other side, working and getting better and better and better, than not having a chance because I can't solve those problems quickly. And this is another reason, I'm going to mention it for the second time today in today's show, why AI is destroying creative thinking. and it's going to affect all of you out there if you don't learn how to problem solve, how to critically analyze a situation and come up with a solution, because that's what you're constantly doing in the theater. Okay, enough of my anti-AI talk. Go, Steve.
I think you both have a point. We'll go back to that pivot statement. I think what I have found in the theater is when I'm getting ready to go into some type of session with the director, we have a tendency to agree. And I ask if there's a major problem, if there's something that's really bothering you, and I can fix it in 10 minutes. Is this cool? I'll let you know and let you make the decision on whether or not we're going to stop and fix it right now or take a note. And generally, most directors will say, if you can do it in 10 minutes, then that gives me a time to probably give a couple notes on stage. Just make sure, don't let me just keep working, tell me I'm ready to go. So part of this is having partners, and your main partner is the director. Your other partner is the stage manager, who is getting that information to the director. Lighting is ready to go. Let's get going again. I think this idea of working on a problem overnight and coming back 2 days later, I don't think that happens. It hasn't happened in the theater in a long time. Also, I think you need to know how much time it takes to fix something. You can't just arbitrarily say it's going to be 15 minutes and it's 30 minutes later. You're really in trouble now because you've killed a lot of important time. I agree. One of the things I work for at the tech table is keeping a relaxed kind of atmosphere around the table. I have, on those shows where I do have an associate or an assistant, I count on them. I count on their eyes. And I trust them enough that I can turn to them and say, do you think the cyclorama is a problem? And they look at me and say, they don't say, well, it should be blue instead of red. They look at me and say, it might be too bright or it might be too dark. I need the people that's on my team working with me to solve these problems. So I think communication, working cleanly and effectively with the director, respecting the stage manager to keep things moving, being honest. I've done shows where the stage manager looks at me and goes, where are we? And I'm 8 minutes into my 10. And I say, I need 2 more minutes. And we'll get there. But I don't say I need 2 more minutes and I need 15 minutes. That's just a horrible, horrible mistake, because no one will ever trust you again. Sometimes you do have to say what you want can't be solved. in a fast time. But I think those days are gone. Most of those problems were focus problems or color problems. And today with moving lights, with LED technology, all the things that we have, better brushes, if you will, to work with, we can make changes really quickly. And that way, things just keep moving along.
One thing to consider, though, I mean, guys like us have been doing this for a long time. We work with directors that trust us when we say, let's try this. How does that come into play with a young designer who really doesn't have the experience and has a tough enough time, handling the stress of the situation of the moment, to be able to calmly offer suggestions, especially if they aren't asked for by potentially a younger director who doesn't want to have advice. So the young designers have a difficult time to, it is a collaborative process, and I think that's what we're all saying. Inexperience and youth sometimes detracts from the trust.
I think our friend Bill Eckhart said it best. Young lighting designers should work with experienced electricians, and young electricians should work with experienced designers. I think it's who that team is. I think that it's about learning. It's about, there's going to be mistakes. The mistakes are made when hubris comes in. I'm not going to change that because it's my light cue, or it's impossible to fix this right now, or we're back to that budget question. I can't possibly do the show for $20,000. It's $100,000 or nothing. We set the parameters. We set the boundaries of the problems. And if we can't see that we're doing that, that itself is a problem. You can't see the solution because the only solution is I have to have 10 lights. I can't possibly do it with 5. Well, your 5 lights are in the wrong place. Jennifer Tipton says there's only one right place for a light.
It's funny because in the article I wrote, the same title, it's the other article that came out, I mentioned about what Gilbert Hemsley used to do in creating a very Zen-like atmosphere at the production table, which helps you solve the problems. And he would always have certain goodies there, and whether it be trail mix or it be pistachio nuts or whatever, to keep the director happy, to keep everyone else happy, and hopefully to keep everyone calm. And I think, again, it gets back to this whole Zen and the Art of Lighting Design situation. Someone should write a book, Zen and the Art of Lighting Design.
There's your book, Steve.
There it is. There's another one, Steve. There you go. So, hey, guess what time it is? It's time for the Puzzler. The Light Talk Puzzler. And last week, we had our first Light Talk Puzzler in many, many years. I think we did one other Puzzler, Steve. And due to the lack of interest, we stopped.
Well, we're going to change that.
But we're going to change that. As a matter of fact, I have a surprise for everybody a little bit. All right? Steve, so for our listeners who didn't listen to last week's show, they're very few, I know that. But could you please restate what the Puzzler is and then give us the answer?
Okay, so the idea here is John is designing a show with a barroom set that has 3 practical sconces attached to the back wall. He purchased those at Home Depot. A simple wall sconce you might see on a front porch. The same wall has 3 LED fixtures focused down the wall to enhance the effect of the sconces when they're on. Everything works perfectly at lamp check, but when John goes to program and turn on the Threeford circuit of sconces, a problem comes up. The sconces turn on, but when John adds the 3 LED fixtures, the wall washes, sconce number 2 and 3 turn off after about 4 seconds. John has tried using different circuits, different universes. He's run direct power lines. He's using a road hog. Nothing can solve this. He has spent hours doing this, and fortunately a work-study student walked into the room and solved the problem in 5 minutes.
So I could not figure this one out, Steve. I actually I didn't know the answer until this morning when you sent it to us.
Wow.
So why don't you tell us this answer?
Yes, there was about 800 years of education that could not solve this problem.
That's right.
The LED fixtures, the console, the threefers, those are all red herrings that just get in the way of solving the problem. the wall sconces. Remember those wall sconces bought at Home Depot?
Right.
They're rated for outdoor use and have a very, very small light sensor on the top that turns them off in daylight. 2 of the 3 LED fixtures were spilling on to unit 2 and 3. So when they turned them on, 1 would stay on because the light was focused perfectly. 2 and 3, after about 4 seconds would go, I guess the sun is coming up, and they would turn off. So once they refocused the offending LED wall washes, all of the sconces worked perfectly.
There you go.
And I think they may have gone back and put a piece of tape on top of them.
That's another solution.
I was just going to say, when I read that, I said, oh, I know what the problem is, because I put the same fixture on the front of my porch a couple years ago.
There you
but
go.
the wall
There you
behind it was white. So when the light
That's
went
right.
on, the white wall bounced the light back and it
Oh,
flickered.
so self-defeating.
And I said, what the hell kind of light is this? But I ended up putting black tack on it and problem solved.
Problem
What?
solved.
I had the same problem I put in the early days of LED. I put an LED light in my garage door opener, and that sucker would mess with the frequency of the control.
The control device, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That took a while to figure out. So, David, how many $20 bills with the winning answer appeared?
1. 1 did. And that is from Michael Wallace of Eugene, Oregon. And he was the first listener to send us the correct answer. And Michael wins 2 VIP passes to this year's Light Talk After Dark After Party at LDI 2025. So, you know what that means, Steve and Dennis?
Yeah.
It means he wants to meet the idiots who couldn't figure out this simple problem.
Yeah, that means that we need to organize a stand party.
I was just going to say, it sounds like I have to go to LDI now. Boy.
Oh, you definitely have to go to LDI. When you're a Lumen brother, you're at LDI, dude. Okay, you don't skip out. So, mark it on your calendar because we have a lot of fun there. But we're having an after, we do a special, we should tell Dennis, I don't know if he's heard any of our special Light Talk After Dark episodes, but that is these are the R-rated episodes. So,
wow.
and sometimes costumes are required. So,
Dirty DMX is my favorite.
Or lack of costumes.
what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. All right. Steve has the last question of the day.
Rhonda in Arizona writes, how do I best explain to a young lighting designer that their light cue does not serve any purpose?
Ouch.
In fact, it's
Ouch.
even a distraction, beautiful as it is. All right, so Rhonda, I'm either you're an assistant director or you're a director, I assume. I think this happens. Sometimes young lighting designers feel they get paid by the cue. And you did say it's a beautiful cue. I would say that you need to remember the lighting designer, you and everybody else, you're all part of a team and you're all paddling as hard as you can like that little duck to get to opening night. The thing you need to consider is how would you want this news said to you? So just put yourself in the other person's shoes for a second before you say anything and think, how am I going to couch this? Probably it's going to be necessary to take a minute and listen to the LD because he or she is going to explain what was going on with the cue. And just remind them, not every moment needs a cue. You see this a lot in dance. Every time there's a note change, there's like a sight change on stage. And that really gets in the way sometimes. And even as you say, a beautiful cue, if there's no need for it, there's no need for it. It takes the audience out of the moment sometimes.
As a little tease for next week, I will tell you when I took the USA exam a few centuries ago, Lee Watson was, remember Lee Watson?
No, not another Lee Watson story. I have my own Lee Watson story.
Who doesn't?
I,
He was one of the judges on the panel of 4 or 5 for the practical. And I did a couple of cues that he objected to. So next week, I'll tell you what Lee told me.
oh, I can't wait. And I'll tell you my Lee Watson story, too.
Okay, there's a tease.
I never met him, but I bought his book.
He had the most fabulous ties. He had these
Yes.
bow ties that were made out of bird feathers. What the was that? I mean, what was these bow ties made out of bird feathers? It was so stupid.
He definitely costumed himself.
But you know something? It's something that Rick Fisher told me. I love Rick Fisher. And he always wears these outrageous outfits on opening night. So I just tell him all the time, Rick, you look fabulous, man. It's like awesome, these outfits. And he says, you got to stand out. I love Rick. He's such a wonderful guy. And a great designer, by the way. All right. So I guess that's the end of the show.
How do we know? It just ends itself?
It just ends. We're gonna do the outro now, and we just say, okay, it's about time. Let's get out of here.
The Gypsies start to play.
That's right. Yeah, the Gypsies are playing. The rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again, you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website at lighttalk.org, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way we'll not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, you will be dealing with me, Snoot, from the Snoot Group. And you don't want to f*** with me, because I will make your life unbearably miserable as I drain the retirement funds from these Lumen bozos.
Thank you, Snoot. By the way, you're looking quite fetching today.
Thank you.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, and, well, our sister abroad is coming to you from Long Beach, the Lone Star State, and the Big Apple in New York, New York.
And be sure to join us next week when we talk about more lighting shenanigans and serve you more of our casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
And don't forget, next Saturday, Brother Zach will be joining us. So we'll have four of us, the four brothers here, which will be awesome. We'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Bye-bye.